Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm super excited to show you how to make a beautiful off the shoulder blouse from scratch. Whether you're a beginner or already into sewing, this project is perfect because it's stylish, comfortable and surprisingly very easy to put together. So grab your fabric and sewing tools and let's get right into the details. So I'm going to start off by showing you the required measurement you'll be needing to make this off the shoulder blouse. Then we'll go ahead and cut out our fabric. So you need to measure around your shoulder and also from your armhole at the back to the front armhole where you want your sleeve to sit. You need to take that measurement as well. So I'll be working with 2 yards of fabric for this blouse. I have here this striped cotton fabric that I'll be using, and I also have my elastic tape here. This elastic tape is about 1/4 of an inch in width. So let's go ahead and then cut out the pieces of fabric. So I've cut out 2 pieces of fabric for the blouse. I'll be using one for the front and then one for the back. So to get the required width of fabric you need for the off shoulder, you need to take in your shoulder length and then add 10 inches to it. So my shoulder length was 13 and I added 10 to make it 23. So that's the width of my fabric, and then you can cut out your desired blouse length. I'm working with 21 inches for this blouse. So the next thing I'm going to do is to fold my fabric into 2, making sure that the sides are properly aligned. And I have the folded end here, and also the pieces are towards the side. So I'll be having 4 pieces in all for this blouse. So I'm going to go in by 2.5 inches from where I have the pieces. I'll go in by 2.5. If you're of a bigger size, you can go in by 3 or 4 inches. And from that point, I'm going to go down by half of my chest line, and I'll be adding 3 inches to that measurement. So in all, I got 6.5 for mine, and I'll mark it and connect both points with a straight line. So I added the extra 3 inches for my casing at the shoulder of this blouse. So after that, I'll connect the point out this way and I'll draw in my armhole curve. So I'll be leaving all the calculations for the chest line on the screen, so feel free to alter it to your measurement. For the armhole, I went in by about 2.5 inches and then I drew in my curve. So I'll cut this out. Then I will set it aside so we can work on the sleeve. I have here 2 pieces of fabric that I'll be using to work on my sleeve. My sleeve is going to stop on my elbow line. So these are the 2 pieces of fabric. I'll make sure that they are properly aligned, and then the length of my fabric is 21 inches, which is from where my off shoulder is going to start from to my elbow line. And for the width of this fabric, I'm working with 20 inches. So I measured from my back armhole to my front, and then I had 10 inches and I added an extra 10 inches to that, making 20. So I'll go ahead and fold my fabric into 2, and then I have the folded line here, and the pieces are also towards this side. So I'll be having 4 pieces for the sleeve as well. Remember, we'll be cutting out 2 pieces of sleeve. So I'll bring in my main blouse here and then place it on top of this sleeve fabric I have. So I have the sleeve fabric underneath this piece of fabric for my blouse. I'll make sure the sides are facing the same direction and the folded ends are also facing the same direction. Then I will cut out the armhole of the sleeve following the pattern I have on the blouse. So I'll cut it out, and then here we have our sleeve. This is what the sleeve pattern looks like. From the hem of the sleeve, I'm going to go in by 1 inch to give the sleeve some shape, and I'll connect a straight line from that hem to touch the armhole area this way. Then I would cut this out. So I'm done cutting. When I open this up, I would have two pieces of fabric, one for each side of this blouse. The first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to fold the hem of this sleeve in by a 1/4 inch twice, and then I'll stitch it down from one end to the other on the sewing machine and fold it again by 1/2 inch to create the casing where I'll be passing my elastic. So I'll be repeating the same process for the other sleeve as well. Fold it in, and then after stitching you fold it back to create the casing. So I've done that for the sleeve. This is what the hem looks like, and this is the channel that I've created so I can be able to pass my elastic band through. So I've cut out my elastic. This is equal to the circumference of my elbow minus 3 inches. So with the help of my hairpin, if you have a safety pin, you can use it to pass the elastic tape through the casing we made. So I'll be passing it from one end to the other. If you are going to be making this up to your wrist, then you need to take in your wrist measurement, your round wrist measurement, and then you take out about 2 inch from the elastic band so it can fit nicely on your wrist. So I'll pass the elastic through the other sleeve casing as well from one end to the other. And when I'm done with this, I would secure the ends of the elastic with pins. Then I would head to my sewing machine and then stitch this down just to secure the elastic tip. So I'll stitch down by about a 1/4 inch on each side of the sleeve to secure my elastic. So I've secured the elastic at the elbow area. This is what it looks like, and then I'll even out the gathers so that it can look very beautiful on the sleeve. So the next I'm going to do is I'm going to fold in my sleeve, right side facing right sides, and then I will stitch from the armhole curve to the hem of the sleeve on 1/2 inch. So I'll stitch this down on both sleeves, and then I would also serge the rough edges after stitching down on the sewing machine. So I've stitched my sleeve down. This is what the wrong sides look like. It's looking so good already. So I'll set this aside so we can work on the blouse. So for the blouse, remember we cut out 2 pieces of fabric. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to head back to my sewing machine and stitch the sides down on 1/2 inch from the armhole to the hem of this blouse. So I've stitched this down, and I also serge the rough edges on my serger. This is what it looks like, and this is what the sleeve also looks like. The next thing I'm going to be doing is to attach the sleeve onto the main blouse. I'll do this by turning the sleeve inside out. So I'm turning from the wrong side to the right side on both sleeves. Then I would also turn my blouse inside out as well. I'm going to be attaching the sleeve to the blouse. I'll pick up my sleeve and then match it, the armhole, to the armhole of the blouse, and then I'll hold it down with pins. I'll pin the sleeve onto the armhole of the blouse from one end to the other. I'm pinning before I stitch it down, but if you can also stitch down straight, then that's fine. You can do that as well. So this is what the blouse actually looks like when I was done pinning. So I'm going to head to my sewing machine and then stitch this down on 1/2 inch from one end to the other, repeating the same process for the other armhole as well. I'll stitch them down on 1/2 inch. So I'm done stitching down. This is what the inside looks like, and I also serged the rough edges as well. So it's looking so neat and so beautiful. We are almost through with this blouse. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be creating the casing through which we'll be passing our elastic at the shoulder area of this blouse. So I'll fold in 1/4 inch twice so I can clean the rough edges on top of this blouse. I'll stitch all round down on the sewing machine from one side through to the other just to clean the rough edges on this blouse. So I've done that. This is what it looks like. The edges are looking better now. The next I will do is to fold in 1 inch on the shoulder area down. This is the casing I'm creating. So I'll fold in 1 inch, pin it down all around this blouse. And I created, if you watch the video at the beginning, you realize I had this gathered ruffles on top of this of the shoulder. So I'm going to be pinning all around so I can create that effect you saw at the beginning of this video. So when you are pinning, make sure that indeed you are folding in exactly 1 inch all around. So if you are enjoying this tutorial, please don't forget to hit on the like button and subscribe to the channel for more easy DIY videos. So I'm done pinning. So I'll just cross check to be sure I folded in 1 inch. Yes, I have 1 inch here. I'm going to head to my sewing machine and then stitch the midsection of this 1 inch fold. So that will be 1/2 inch. I'll stitch all around. So I'm done stitching. This is what the blouse looks like, and I have an extra 1/2 inch at the bottom here. So the top is going to create that design, and the bottom is where we are going to be placing our elastic. So we'll create the casing for the elastic by stitching 1/4 inch at the bottom all round, but then we'll be leaving about 3 inch opening where we'll be passing our elastic. So I mark this out so I do not stitch over. So I'll head to my sewing machine and then stitch 1/4 inch all around. So I've stitched it down and I have here my elastic. So at the beginning of the video we measured our shoulder, so I'm going to take out 5 inch from that measurement and cut my elastic band to fit my round shoulder minus 5 inches. So that is what I've done here, and then I'll be passing the elastic through the casing we created at the bottom of this blouse. So I'll pass it through, and while passing through, remember to even out the gathers beautifully. So at the end of it, I'm going to overlap this elastic by about 1 inch on each side. Then I would head to my sewing machine and then stitch this down, and also finish off the open ends we have here. I'll stitch them down. So I've done that. This is what the shoulder looks like. My off shoulder is almost done. The last thing I'm going to do is to finish off the hem of the blouse. I'm going to fold in 1/2 inch twice and then stitch down all around the hem of this blouse, and we are done. As simple as it looks, this is my off shoulder blouse. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I'm going to be pairing this with a jeans trousers. You can also pair it with a jeans skirt or anything for the bottom. It will look so beautiful. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and you give us a thumbs up. Please do not forget to hit on the subscribe button, as we will be bringing you more interesting tutorials in the coming days. Thank you so much for making time to watch this tutorial. We'll see you in our next one.